By the time Venezuela's military realized something was wrong, it was already too late. No invasion announcement, no warning sirens, no dramatic first strike. The sky was no longer theirs, and resistance was no longer an option. Here's how modern warfare ends a government before the first shot is fired. Most people think war begins with explosions, soldiers crossing borders, and tanks rolling through cities. That idea is outdated. Modern warfare doesn't announce itself. It disables, isolates, and overwhelms, quietly and fast. If the United States ever moved decisively against Venezuela, resistance wouldn't collapse because of panic or incompetence. It would collapse because the outcome would already be decided before Venezuela could respond. The first phase wouldn't happen on land. It would happen in the air, in space, and online.
Before Venezuelan commanders even understood what was happening, satellites would already be tracking every radar signal, every aircraft movement, every command center. Communications would begin to fail. Signals would be jammed. Orders would stop reaching units. In modern war, the side that controls information controls reality. Venezuela's air defense systems, while present, are limited, outdated, and heavily outmatched. Against the US, air superiority wouldn't be a battle, it would be a process. Stealth aircraft don't announce themselves on radar. They appear after critical systems stop working. Once the skies are controlled, everything below becomes vulnerable. Air bases, supply routes, command posts, all exposed.
And this is where resistance quietly collapses. Because even if Venezuela has soldiers ready, even if weapons are available, a military without coordination is just scattered individuals. There's also the issue of speed. The US military doesn't wait days or weeks to gain momentum. It compresses operations into hours. By the time leadership realizes the scale of what's happening, key infrastructure is already neutralized, power grids disrupted, airspace denied, ports monitored, movement restricted. At that point, there is no dramatic final stand, only difficult decisions. Do you escalate and risk total destruction? Or do you freeze, hoping the situation stabilizes? This is why modern resistance often looks like inaction, not because a leader refuses to fight, but because fighting no longer looks like fighting back. It looks like walking into a loss that was decided before you could react. And then there's the psychological layer. When a military realizes it cannot see the enemy, cannot communicate properly, and cannot protect its own skies, morale collapses fast. Fear spreads quicker than bullets. At that stage, power doesn't change hands through force alone. It changes through inevitability. This is why modern superpowers rarely need full invasions anymore. Control the air, control information, control timing, and everything else follows. What looks sudden to the public is often the final moment of a process that began long before anyone noticed. And if this kind of silent, inescapable situation fascinates you, then the next story you should watch is even more terrifying, because it didn't involve a nation, it involved one man. The Nutty Putty Cave incident shows how, once you pass a certain point, escape is no longer about strength or effort, it's about physics and timing. And just